there, I'm board certified professional organizer Kathy Burns. I'm really glad you're here. This podcast is designed for busy entrepreneurs just like you who want to take better control of your business and move forward with less stress and more success. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The Organize Energize podcast is produced for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at thepodcast.organizeandenergize.com. Come back often and feel free to add this podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter at Organize Energy and Facebook. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get into the show. Hello and welcome back to Organize and Energize the podcast. I'm so glad you're here. This is Kathy Burns. Hey, today we're going to talk about dating and relationships. So Alison Verge is a dating and relationship coach. And Alison is really dedicated to helping high achievers with emotionally guarded hearts to discover the love that they truly deserve. Through innovative exercises and cutting-edge NLP techniques, she empowers singles to dismantle barriers, adopt skills, and find the right environments to connect with ideal life mates without relying on dating apps. Yeah, you want to throw away the dating apps and find that right person? You're in the right place. We're going to get started here in just a second, talking to Alison. So hang tight. Hi, everyone. As promised, I am back with a relationship coach, Alison. So welcome to the show, Alison.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here, Kathy.
Yeah, I'm excited about this because, I've been in a long-term relationship for a very long time, but I have a lot of friends who have been kind of trying to figure it out. And, how do they find that guy and how do they find that life mate or even just, someone that they can spend time with? So tell me a little bit about your story, Alison, and how you got to be this relationship expert.
Okay, well, that's an interesting one. I was in business for many, many years, and it was actually a kind of, you hear this story in other areas, but it was actually kind of a tragic accident that led to this, but I can't say that I regret it now. But I had a skiing accident that led to this incurable condition, and I was actually in a wheelchair at the time. And it ended up in an end to my 20-year marriage. And it caused me to think about my entire life and also reflect upon myself and all of my relationships. And I realized I hadn't really been connecting to my love life at all. I had thought that I had been happy in my 20-year marriage and all my relationships. And I really hadn't. And in fact, I hadn't been happy in a lot of areas in my life. And when I entered the dating world, which had changed a lot in 20 years, it was very difficult and I was not having a lot of success. And I eventually realized, okay, just like a lot of people, I blamed everything, there's no good men, everything sucks. And then I realized, okay, wait a second, nothing's working. Maybe I need to take a step. I'm an analyzer. Maybe you need to take a step back and look at the common denominator, which is you. And I realized, okay, something's going on here. And I went on a journey, and it was at that point that I realized a lot needed to change. I realized there was a lot going on inside of me. There was a lot of stuff I had not been dealing with for years. And at that point, I decided to make a career shift. Even though I had been happy with my career, I decided to explore the world of personal development. I decided to change absolutely everything about my life. And when I did that, everything changed. I mean, not only did I go back to school for years, but I started to break down that wall of armor, and my dating journey entirely changed. And I met like such an incredible man that I'm still with today, 7.5 years. So it's just, that's a long story, but basically after going through that and seeing how many people suffer in the dating world and in the relationship world being so unfulfilled, I realized that I need to help people who are so lonely and people who are in relationships who are so unfulfilled. I had never felt so awful in my entire life. And I really want to help people find love in this world, especially nowadays. People are literally giving up on love because they really feel it's not possible for them. And these are often really successful people out there in the world, and they just don't believe it's in the cards. And I don't believe that's the case. I think anybody out there can have love.
Yeah, and I agree. If you're, if you're in a high power position and you're working a lot and you have your own boldness, so to speak, then I think especially as women, that it's harder to feel like you're going to find someone that maybe is not intimidated to you, but once will keep up with you, will have your work ethic and have the same, yeah, it goes on and on and on. I know. So I know in your bio, you said a little bit about that. So you were an analyst in your past life?
Well, no, I just do a lot of analyzing. I think a lot of women do. We do a lot of over analyzing, but no, I was in the business world actually. I used to do and deal with a lot of corporations, and I used to do a lot of actually relationship management between corporations and businesses, teaching them how to do business with corporations. So, in a way, it was relationship management in some sense. So I was kind of always in that world, but on the business side of things. But I took psychology in school, and I've always been fascinated by relationships my whole life. And, the person that people might come to talk about it, it's always been my favorite subject. So they say that's where you should go. If you ever think that, there's another career for you, that's where you should dive. And it is where my intuition took me when I realized I wanted to go somewhere else. Or really, it was actually something that popped up on my computer, and I was like, that's it. That's what I know I'm destined to do. So
Serendipities. Don't you love that? Notes from the universe. It's like things keep
yes,
popping up about dating and relationships, and you're like,
yes.
aha, yeah. I love it's a great segue actually from one career that I'm sure you got into for money because it was good and you're on the train, it happened to me, you're on that corporate train, and then you're like, but there has got to be something else that uses my skill sets. And I know that a lot of people listening to this podcast are also thinking about transition or in transition who have just reinvented themselves. If you had to give someone a piece of advice, if they're looking for that relationship, what would be the first place that they should start? Or what's the first kind of action step that they could take towards finding someone or finding, yeah, even people just to share time with?
Well, first step is to really look within, ensure that you're working on yourself, because there's no point in going out there if you haven't done some inner work first, because I can tell you that personally, and from every single client I've worked on, is you'll get nowhere. Because even if you do, there's a good chance you might sabotage it. It'll reflect back. It won't work out well for you. You might attract the wrong person. I would fully suggest you do some inner work to also ensure that you know who the right person is for you to attract. So first look within, take a look at, what could be going on within you. Like, is there past relationship stuff you need to work on, stuff from your childhood, but also do some work on, what are your core values? Who are you as a person, and what does that truly mean in terms of the right partner? Because we frankly don't do enough work on who the right partner is for us, and we base our decisions solely on attraction. And there's absolutely, don't get me wrong, I'm also a certified sexologist. I believe in attraction, but I think we base a little bit too much on attraction alone and ignore our gut feelings, and that are often telling us the truth. And because we don't want to believe it, we ignore red flags. So really do some work on what is truly right for you ahead of time, so you can make wise decisions, as well as go on attraction as well.
I agree, or you'll end up with the same person in a different skin.
Yes, exactly.
Same
Exactly.
scenarios. It's like, wait a minute, I've been here. What's wrong with him or her? And it's like, yeah, the same
Yes.
old, same old. If they are going to start working on personal development, what modalities do you teach, or what modalities do you think are the good ones to start with?
Well, I just got certified as an NLP, neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. So I really do believe in taking a look at what are your underlying fears, your emotions, your beliefs, and your childhood. I think I mean, it does actually take some work to kind of uncover those. What are, I uncovered a lot of underlying beliefs around feeling unsafe from my childhood. They were holding me back in so many ways in my career, my relationships. Like, you'd be surprised how many ways that I didn't realize it was holding me back. There's unconscious blocks. So that is one way. And it doesn't have to be me. I'm saying there's a lot of people who are certified in NLP, and you'd be surprised how quickly you can break those blocks that are holding you back. But in other ways, I think that even just some, like, knowing your core values, honestly, just understanding that and how those can align with, in terms of your vision for your life and what that can mean in terms of your future partner, in terms of what that can mean in just the type of person you attract. It doesn't mean that it has to be identical, but when they completely conflict, that can really break a relationship. And your values can change over your lifetime, but when you're meeting someone to have completely conflicting values or your vision for your future, it's really important to understand that.
You read my mind, because I'm thinking core values. I was thinking, will they change? And then I'm thinking, no, they're core. This is where my head's going as you're speaking. And I do believe that when you're in transition, that your core values often do change, because
Yes,
you're
yes,
transitioning, because something's not working. And so your value system's gone. I also, know that a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. And
yes.
so to uncover that, thought you keep thinking over and over and over comes back to some old moldy value that was instilled in you, that's possibly not even yours, but you thought it was the whole time, right?
Exactly, exactly. Like, I honestly, after last week, after just going through what I did for my final stage of certification, I feel like a new person. Like, I'm going to be doing my new values, and I think they might have shifted quite a bit. Honestly, I broke through a lot of stuff last week, and I thought I broke through a lot of stuff. But you know what? The bottom line is, you're always a work in progress as well. You always
Always.
are. And
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of experts, the top experts in the world who deal with trauma of all types, and they're like, I'm 80% there. That's the thing, is never think that you're done, because it's always a work in progress. And that's my advice too to people. Please never stop
Yeah.
working on yourself.
Life evolves. And if you were to talk to yourself when you were 18, you'd probably say something totally different than what you would tell her now. So what would you say to your 18-year-old self that's maybe just starting out of school, going to maybe into some other college or some other transition? What advice would you give her?
Oh, oh my gosh, I am so different than that person, and I really do wish I could go back. I would honestly say, first of all, I would say trust your intuition, because I think I have been a how-to person. I've had to have everything just nailed down and have all the steps worked out, and have not trusted my intuition. And I think learn to relax a little bit, and it does often have the answers, and it's not always the perfect thing to you, and it's not always easy, but it does lead to a good path in the end. But also to be vulnerable, and it's not always easy for a lot of us, and it certainly wasn't for me. But when I did learn to be vulnerable and break down that wall, that is when the best things happened in my life, when it led to the best connections ever and the best love in my life. Because when I thought it was great to be all strong, and I thought, like, the title of independent and strong and not so vulnerable, that's when things didn't work out as well in terms of the love and connection side of things. And when I did become vulnerable in the right circumstances, it's not like in terms of dating, you go out and you're like blah blah blah, like blah, this is all my entire situation. But gradually, and you become vulnerable with people, that's when truly great love and connection comes your way. So I would say definitely those are two things that I had to learn and that have really changed my life.
And isn't it funny how the universe kicks us in the tush? So you're saying, I had to break down and be vulnerable. You literally body broke down in a ski accident, right? So
Yes.
it's hello, okay,
Yes.
let's be a little bit vulnerable now where people have to help you and you have to learn how to accept health. And that's just how things work sometimes, which
Yes.
yeah. Yeah. So if
Yes.
anybody out there is going through a tragedy as such, or they're stuck in this situation where now they have to be vulnerable, I do agree with you, Allison, that this is a time, carpe diem, this is a time to learn how to rest into and ease into a vulnerability that will allow you to be real. Because,
Yes.
don't you think if you're real, then you're going to attract someone who really likes you as opposed to this persona of that you can't hold up anyhow. Attract the
Well,
other person.
that's a really good point because I think that's the biggest problem right now with online dating is that it's so big right now that you're a needle in the haystack and everybody is trying to create these perfect profiles and then kind of go, okay, well, people will come in and then I'll filter down from there. But it just doesn't work, right? It just doesn't work that way. Instead, it's kind of like people say niching down in business. You have to actually repel people. And so that some people will go to your profile and go, oh, no, that is completely not for me. That's what you want people to do and go, I do not resonate with that. Or that is the person I've been looking for. You want to be that like person who stands out to some and other people you don't. Otherwise that person won't find you if you're just like everybody else. So that's people usually take the wrong approach with online dating. So but I also really specialize in helping people offline. Like I would never suggest people just go online and online only because it can really break people.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's the same in business, for those of us in business, being vulnerable and being our unique individuation of who we are is going to be the attractor magnet. And if we're coming off as something that we're not, it's not going to work out anyhow. We're gonna have those clients that we really don't want to work with because they're not resonating with us, right? So I think it's the same thing with dating, be it online or in person. And I can totally see, I'm so out of the mix. I've been married for over 30 years, but I can totally see how you, because this is, I'm thinking myself as a businesswoman, it's the same thing. You kind of want to set up that perfect stage, the perfect words, the perfect, and then I've lost Kathy. And I think it's the
Yes.
same thing, when you're out dating, you want to just be who you are and they're going to love you or hate you and God love them. You can't help what anybody thinks about you anyhow. So they're going to
Yes.
think they think, right?
Yes. Yes. No, absolutely. 100%. And congratulations. That's a long time to be married. That's wonderful.
Thank you. We've been together 37 years. I figured out
37.
I've been with him more than I've been without him in my life. And
Wow.
yeah, so I am blessed. And it gets better and better every day. And when you were talking about core values, the big thing, our very first date was about spirituality. And that's one of
Wow.
our core values. And we talked for 3 hours about what we feel about spirituality and that type of thing. And that was our immediate connection, right? I'm like, oh, he thinks
Wow.
exactly what I think, and I think exactly like he thinks. And wow, I thought, because I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, and I thought no one else would think about this way. So, having that deep core connection, which again, right, leads to the vulnerability and being who you are, and then you're like, click, click, works. Yeah. So thank
That's
you.
amazing. And that's a little bit unusual for well, I shouldn't say back then, but I mean that's really incredible. That's
For a first date, right? For a first date, are you going to go there? You're not going to talk about religion or politics or any of that stuff generally, right? That's not
yeah,
going to come up. But that's okay. I ended up with my soulmate, so my life
that's
mate.
amazing. Wow,
Yeah.
congratulations. That's an inspiration for everybody. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you. I love it. I am blessed. Okay, so moving on. Talk to me about one of your clients. Give me a little story about a client that was lost and then found, and what happened in that transition period and at the end.
Yeah. Well, I would say let me tell you, well, there was one client who she came to me and she's achieved a lot of success in her life, but not in any relationships, right? And she just was feeling very discouraged and was ready to give up on love, and just was like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it up to fate. Like if it happens, it happens, and maybe it'll just come to my doorstep. And I was like, okay, fair enough, but why don't we do the work and see what transpires? And so we did a lot of inner work, and there was a lot that had come up, a lot in terms of confidence, and a lot in terms of again, that need to feel independent, that identity of being independent and strong, and I don't need a man. And I think there's also something to be said these days that for the male female energy side of the equation, and going out there and conducting dates like interviews, and there's there and it's happening a lot, and I can't say there's nothing to blame here. It's because it's hard in the workplace, and now women often feel like they need to be very powerful out there, and then it's hard to take that hat off. But connection just doesn't happen out there when you're dating if there's strong male energy out. And we all contain male female energy, but often, females will have more female energy and males will have more male energy, but you need a combination, right, in order for attraction to occur. So it's sometimes we forget to take that hat off, and there needs to be some playfulness there in order for the attraction to occur. But and it's hard now because a lot of people don't know what role to play, don't know. There's a lot of confusion out there going on. But so she would say to me, well, I don't know, like, do you want me to dumb it down? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, absolutely not. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's ways to also get get the answers you want in terms of who the right partner is, without just like almost like a question answer. Next question. Like, there is a way to do it in a way, an indirect way and in a fun way to find out, what are the values of this person, what is it they're looking for. So, but the bottom line is we did a lot of deep work into what had gone on in her past. We'd broken down a lot of the walls, a lot of the limiting beliefs. We found out who she really was at the core, what she really looked for. We broke through a lot of that. And when she went back out there, she really started attracting entirely new people, like that never came into her sphere before, which is what happens, right? Not only she chose to, we found places, unique places based on who she was, which is what happens when I work with people, to find people in person, which she did, and online. And I can also write people really incredible profiles. But so people, she told me that I've never met men like this, like in my life, have never come into my sphere, right? Ever. She goes, there've only been men that I would never, like, they've been jerks basically, and jerks that I might have dated, right? We've all had that, been through that stage where they looked attractive, they were jerks, but then we weren't interested, or we were, and then they broke our hearts. But she said, but this was different. They were attractive. I was attracted to them, but they were also good men. Like, they kind of had it all. Not that they're perfect, but they kind of had everything she was looking for. And she was actually 100% attracted to them. And so she ended up actually meeting the guy who was everything she wanted. And they're still together. I think it's been 5 years now. Like, I touch base with her, she sends me a message. And so she goes, Alison, I have to say, I just never would have thought this guy would come into my sphere before, or I never would have given him a second glance, because I never would have thought he'd be interested in me, or which also I have to say happens. I didn't realize until I stood over a lot of my clients' shoulders. I deal with men and women, but I was looking over a few of my female clients' shoulders, and I said, can you just walk me through some of your profiles and tell me some of the people that you're interested in or not interested in. And so they'd flip through and I'd be like, okay, so tell me which ones you're interested or not interested in. And they'd flip really fast and I go, whoa, okay, stop. Like, tell me, why are you not interested in this one? And it looked to me, I can't judge, but I'm like, it looked like a very attractive man and like well dressed, everything. I go, so why are you not interested in this person? I don't know. And I'm like, oh, well, there must be a reason why you flipped past him. And like, I'm not sure. And I'm like, okay. And they couldn't give me an answer. And it soon, when we discussed it, it was, and I don't mean this in a wrong way, but they're plain small. They didn't even consciously realize it because they're afraid of getting hurt. So they were purposely going for people that they knew were not right for them because they couldn't get hurt. So they were unconsciously flipping past people who they thought were too good for them in some way, so they couldn't get hurt. So that happens a lot online as well with people. So it's just, yeah.
I can see that. And I love the modality that you use, that, you need to go in, you need to go within before you can go out, back out onto the seam. And I totally think that's true. I think with almost anything, any new adventure that you want to take with your life, I think you need to go within. I'm in full agreement with you, just to figure out the core value of what you're transitioning to, what your intention is, and being really solid on that before you take the step outward. Because if you just go out willy-nilly without the intention and without the goals or any of that, I agree, might not get what you're really looking for. And you might not even know what you're really looking for anyhow. So I applaud you on your techniques with it, Allison. I think it's really good, solid advice, which is why I wanted to have you on the show, because I know there's a lot of women out there and possibly men that are thinking, I'm never going to find that person. I don't know how to do it. Or online would be just rough. I'm just so glad I'm not in that state. Very glad. I am blessed. Okay, we have to ask about organizing. We're getting down to the end, but how do you keep your life organized or your business organized? Tell me about what your favorite hack or system is that you use.
Well, you know what? I honestly have to tell you what I just learned this past week because I think it's brilliant. So I have to share it because I haven't heard it before. So I'm just gonna tell you this one because a lot of them I think everybody's heard before, and you might, maybe, I'm curious if you've heard of it, but it's the post-it note bucket system. Have you heard of this?
No, but post-it notes are kind of my nemesis for my clients. So talk to me about this.
Oh, okay. Well, because I do everything on my computer, but I think it's not working. It doesn't always work for me because I do everything on my computer so then it can get buried. So this is where you would create like 5 core buckets. Say you have 5. Some people, like if you're dealing with overwhelm, some people have so many things like I do, of like 100 things you have to do in your life right now, right? Your business, your life, everything else. So you have to narrow it down 3 to 5 buckets, but for me it's 5 because 5 is even a stretch, but have to put it in 5, and that includes your personal life, no more than 5. Okay, so you have 5 buckets, and then you have to put all of those tasks underneath those 5 buckets. Okay, and you can't try to like put the buckets this and this. It has to be 5 core buckets, and in order of importance. Okay, underneath the buckets of tasks. And then you use your intuition to tell you what is the next best thing. So every day you would look at the top of the list, okay, underneath the bucket, and you would do the tasks, the 5 tasks that are at the very top. But every day you would do a check. What is the best thing for me to do today? And is it those 5 things at the top, or is it something else? And it could be that you're working in 1 bucket that day or 2 buckets, but you use your intuition for the answers. So maybe it isn't those 5 things, and maybe it's okay, my intuition is telling me that I need to make 10 sales calls today, right? So you move something down that's probably on your list, so you move that up to the top, but you're always working within those buckets, within the list. And as you do one, you take it off, you move the other one up, or you move things around as your intuition tells you is the the best thing to do. And if you have something new, you add it to one of those buckets.
And the post-it notes work because you can move them around
You
for
can
sure.
move them around and you're seeing them. Like some people, if it really works for you on your computer, it works on a chart. But for me, because I realized that this could actually work for me because it could literally get buried like behind all my other things on my computer for me. And then I could say I'm going to go to it and I might not. But I can see how seeing this on my wall and moving them around could be really good for me. And I saw
Mhm.
in the room, a lot of people were like, oh, that could be really good. But I'm curious why post-it notes, you don't like them. So I'm like,
Ah,
mm,
well, it's not that I don't like them. So, visual clutter is a big distraction.
yeah,
So if you're speaking, and I have a lot of clients, there's post-it notes everywhere. And so they're
yes.
not organized into buckets. They're not organized by type of task. I mean, there's been no decision making around that post-it. They've just stuck something on a post-it and stuck it
Oh,
somewhere.
yes,
Right. So that's typically what
yes,
I see when I work with clients who have post-it notes.
yes.
Funny, I did a TV segment on Fox, and it was the same thing. The producer had post-it notes everywhere, and the whole staff was basing on him about it. And he still ended up having three post-it notes on his monitor that were necessary, but all the other ones went away. But the fact that you're bucketing, I mean, it's so funny because I have a technique called umbrella-ing each day with an intention, which would be the 5 intentions, your 5 main motivational things that you do for your business. Underneath that then would be your post-it notes of task based on that type of action that you're taking.
Mm,
Project day, is this a reach out day, is this, what kind of it is, this a marketing day, is this a client day, what kind of day is it, and then you put your intentions underneath that. I like the idea, and I think it will appeal to a lot of people. And I'll probably talk about it a little bit more, possibly on a blog or something, because I think it's interesting. My only caveat would be that if you're not in tune with your intuition and you do a check-in with yourself about what should I do first, second, or third, oftentimes the things that we need to do most are the ones that we don't want to do. So
yes,
we
yes,
go to our intention, and our intention is saying, no, you don't want to do that. You need to do this because this is really, in reality, this is more fun and this is hard. So that's what
that's
I'm counting
yes.
on that. But I love the idea of separating them in, like with like from an organizing perspective. Let's put all of our, do the buckets, and let's figure out what to do's go into which bucket. I think that's really smart.
Yes, yes. And that is a key point that you said that she's stressed. You can't do the ones that you have to be very careful not to just do the ones that you want to do and really be. So that's not an easy, I know that's not an easy thing. So we all do that. We avoid the ones that we don't want to do. So that is a key
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So, and I
Yeah.
get what you said about the post-it notes because I used to be guilty of that. I used to have 1,000 around and I don't do it anymore, but I did used to do that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, it's because it's a way that we think that we're going to brain dump. Like, let's just dump that into a little note over here and throw it. We don't want to forget it. Let's stick it on a postie and do that. So, yeah. But I mean, it's just a thing. I do like post-it notes with certain occasions and for certain things. I like the
love
fact.
notes. Post-it notes are good for love notes.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Okay, so talk to me. I know we're coming down to the minute here. Talk to me about the free offer that you have for listeners out there that they might
Yes.
to take.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I have what's called I created it myself as a dating resume template. So it can be used in a variety of situations, kind of walks you through everything you would need, like if you're going out on a date or creating your profile or just wanting to be clear on what you need in a partner. But it can even help, I was saying to you earlier, if you're in a relationship, kind of gaining clarity on what's important to you to maybe talk about with your partner. I have an Etsy store and it's actually my number one seller there. And so I have that as a free resource. And when you get that, you'll also get a free download of the 10 toxic patterns that are blocking you from your ideal relationship. So that'll also be a free download to people. So both of those resources will be available to people.
Oh, I so appreciate that. I appreciate you giving it to us where you're selling it in other places on Etsy. And I can totally see how tapping in and tuning in and first is better before you go out. So I think these tools will help. I also think it's very interesting earlier that you said that you write great, great, I don't know what it's called, a bio or a great
Dating profiles, yeah.
a great profile. So if you're looking for a great profile, you might also want to reach out to Alison about that. Just to, I'm sure she'd love to give you a critique and possibly help you with that. And she
Oh,
could probably see instantly what's going on with one word.
yeah,
Sometimes.
or just you'll see that they can book a free session with me if they like it after too, and I can,
Oh.
have a conversation with me. I'm happy to answer some questions with them and talk them through what their main block might be, holding them back from having the love life they really want.
Yay! Everybody deserves love. Yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
for
And
sure.
everybody's capable of it. I just want people to know that out there. I was disabled when I found my current partner of 8 years, who's wonderful. So
Ah,
it's
there you go.
possible for
Vulnerable.
everybody.
Vulnerable and open and yeah, isn't it funny what happens like that? Definitely.
Yes.
So
Yes.
is there anything that I should have asked you? Did we miss anything in conversation that you really wanted to talk about?
I just think the key thing, like to finding love, because the number one thing I always hear is there's no good connections out there. And that's the first thing everybody always says, and I'm done with dating apps. And really, the number one thing is really when you start breaking down the barriers within you, you're going to find everything changes. Honestly, everything will change, and you will start finding those good connections. It happens every time. So that's really my main message.
Yay for love.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Allison. I so much appreciate your time. You're very gracious in giving the listeners free tips and their downloads, and I really appreciate you. You are needed in the world, so thank you for your expertise. And I'm so glad you had that jog in your life to shift over from relationships in business to relationships in personal life. We all need it.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure being here, and thank you for what you do, Kathy. It's so important.
Absolutely. Okay, you guys, until next time, I'll see you at Organize and Energize the podcast. Join us next time, and I'll see you later. Hey, thanks for listening to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you want to hear more, feel free to subscribe on the platform of your choice. Also, if you feel so inclined, I would truly appreciate a good rating from you to me. Have a stellar day.